Hello, Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Let's play chess. So this game snapped a losing streak that I had against this opponent. I was finally able to score a win, and that win occurred within the last 10 minutes. Let's see what happened here. I had the white pieces. As you can see from the chart here, I believe we can see most of that. Oh no, let me. No, if you can see it on the chart here. No, sorry. If you can see from the chart here, that looks like with a couple slips, maybe one about a third of the way into the game, and a mistake about halfway into the game. It was mostly light white advantage, a slight white advantage, and then things broke apart near the end. And let's get to it. E takes D. This is the Scandinavian defense. One of the popular ways for black to play after knight c3. So the queen who's under attack, she'll go to a5 and very often to d8. They lead to quite different games, but the one that going to a5, you'll usually see white advance the d pawn and then the bishop to d2, and if black's not careful, white might uncork an effective discovered attack against the black queen. Knight to f3, developing pieces. I decided to play g3 here. In similar positions in the past, I've had that become useful for me, so I'll play bishop to f4, attacking the queen, and it's also a good diagonal for the bishop on f1 to move to gain the diagonal on g2. Might be a powerful bishop at some point in the future, noticing that none of white's pawns are obstructing the bishop's scope. Don't do that. Alright. Bishop to f4, attacking the queen at c7. Alright, just developing with tempo. The queen comes back to a5, and I think I chase her with bishop d2. She's back, and I say let's not have a draw out of this quite yet. Bishop to d3 is a provocative move where black might capture on d3, and when white recaptures, the pawn helps control the center, so it's a strong move at that rate. My opponent chose to play bishop to g6, capture on g6. The capture towards the center is good, so that black can now make use of the rook that starts on h8. Bishop to f4, again attacking the queen, while supported by the pawn at g3. Queen goes back to a5, and I decided to castle here, even given the mild to moderate amount of light squared weakness around white's king. Bishop back to d2, and what do you know? Queen to c7 again. I grab the e file here. It's mostly open. It's a half open file technically, and a good deal of that represents itself before the pawn from the rook's vantage point. Queenside castles, and white looks for this attack with bishop to f4 again. Looks like there's something more pressing for white to be taking a look at. Knight g5, right to attack f7 and the fork between rooks immediately thereafter. White misses out on an opportunity there. E5's the best move, and White decides to liquidate in the center, and the board becomes more open. It's still not totally open, but it's reasonably open for this stage of the game as White has completed his 20th move. After F5, Queen E2, pawn to F4, and folly would be to capture that pawn and allow Black to unleash an attack against H2 while also, this would be a folly for White. White does not want to capture on F4. And there would then be, after Bishop takes F4, 3 pieces attacking the H2 square. Knight E4, and F takes G3. I'm gonna capture, and after this check, I had, frankly, I had the tactics calculated wrong. Maybe White should capture with the F pawn, less likely with the H pawn. Yeah, F takes G3 is good. It allows some protection along the H file. Yeah, it's superior in that way. The F takes J. There's also additional protection from the knight on E4 for the moment. We look at this knight, we're not thinking he's going to be there for very long. This is a knight in transit, my friends. Queen to G4 check. The fork looks like a fork, it just doesn't quite work for Black. Knight takes D6 check. Resolving the check by recapturing also gives White the initiative to flee the attack of Black's F5 pawn. Queen to G4 check. A few moves. As soon as setting the stage. Rook to E5 seems to be some sort of error, but there's some. White could have played rook to E6 and try to find some material after the queen retreats, depending on where the queen retreats. If she goes to D5, then you wouldn't want to capture on G6 with the rook. Rook captures, queen captures, and rook to G8 with the support of Black's own queen will pick up White's queen on G4. She can't capture for she'll be captured. And when the king takes time to step away, she'll still be captured for piece value reasons mostly. And if the king doesn't step away, she may not leave the G file as she's skewered to her king. Rook to E5, rook to H8, rook to E1. So some lousy moves here. I'm not going to go into detail on all this. Major piece endings are tough, frankly. To play a major piece ending accurately is a true feat, and I was not up to that task. Winning was more important to me, and that I did. see, queen takes f4 was a strong move here. There's the possibility of rook to e7 check, and queen cannot capture or capture. And when the king moves, the white queen captures on d6. I noticed this, but late in the game itself. I think by the time I was able to try to play for that, here I was one move late. I played queen takes f4. It doesn't work anymore, especially with rook to h1 check. The whole landscape has changed as a result. And queen takes e1, queen f7 check. Alright, white is just gonna simplify. Here, I think pretty much rook takes e8 would have done it for white. We'll go back to this point and I'll play it out in practice, but with the time below a minute, I was interested in getting moves made. And that turned out to be the correct strategy. The winning strategy is here, though the board is even. My opponent timed out. But where were we when we had this? Okay. Here with white to move, let's practice this out and demonstrate why this is a sure win for white. Should be white to move. Trade rooks. And I think the thing is f4 to stop the advance of black's g-pawn. And the practice computer has chosen a line that I think white can defeat rather straightforwardly. Okay, so now that this is kind of at a detente, right? So we play some moves along the wing here that are mostly designed to lock things up. We have a way to create a decoy. And now so the idea is the d-pawn is free. And the black king will find that d-pawn and capture, usually her, capture her. And then that leads the f-pawn on the path toward promotion. Pawn to f8 equals queen. Might have made this a little bit more difficult than I had to here, but and checkmate on a7. So again, to recap some of the key things about this endgame, one, we want to obtain good king position on the one-on-one side, and then often these will reach some sort of stalemate. Excuse me, détente. Sorry about that. Détente. The pieces will reach a lock. There's no real way for white to make progress against black's lateral movement unless maybe he has a pawn majority elsewhere. You know, move your wing pawns first usually, and then some of these other guys, and eventually either create a decoy or find a way where you can make black late to the aid of fewer pawns. for instance, if we just sort of lock up, then maybe the pawn's on c5, and there comes a pawn up to b5, and then there's also an ace. It's locked, right? The pawns can't even move. Play f5, black will capture, we capture this way, and sometimes white can show that black is just one file or one square late to the rescue of an inferior force. It's hard to explain. That's as good as we can get on it. That's as good as I could get on it. In this case, I was the opportunity for. In this case, the opportunity for a decoy presented itself, and after d5, it's either captures on the d file and there's a good decoy going towards d8, or if the pawn presses, we capture on c5. My opponent's king moves back again, and then still we have a decoy going on towards her promotion on d8. Alright, sort of a strange way to end it here. I don't know. For some reason I chose this way, but I'm okay with that. Okay. Game. That's the settles. How does ice settle? Downward. And that's just below freezing, I guess. It's water that's freezing. So once again, how does ice settle? Downward. So that end portion, the game's more accurate, and this is good. I'm glad to see that. The game was about almost exactly even in accuracy before that. So anyway, great game. Hats off to my opponent. Merci pour le jeu de choc et bien que je vais aller. Thank you, viewers, for watching. Thank you, Gravitrons.